The July 9, 2013 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Everyone's taking their seat, thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
President Adair.
Here.
Mr. Ansello. Here. Ms. Andrews. Here. Mr. Antelli. Here. Mr. Barker. Here. Mr. Baroth. Here. Ms. Boyce. Here. Dr. Carbone. Here. Mr. Colby. Here. Mr. Daniele is excused. Mrs. Straw. Here. Mr. Gamble. Here. Mr. Gamina. Here. Mr. Haney. Here. Mr. Hanna. Here. Mr. Holland is excused. Ms. Kaylee. Here. Mr. John Lightfoot. Mr. Willie Lightfoot, Mr. McCann, excuse me, Mr. Michike, Mr. Morelli, Mr. Patterson, Dr. Quattro, Mr. Rocco, Mr. Tucciarello, Mrs. Valerio, Mr. Wilcox, Mr. Yolovich.
Please stay seated. At this time, I'd like to introduce to us Pastor Chris Bacchus of the Anchor Christian Church, who's been invited here tonight by Legislator Mary Valerio.
Let us pray. Lord and God of all there is, thank you for the blessings you've given us that make it possible for us to be here tonight. Freedom, representation, heritage, civic-mindedness, sacrifice. We acknowledge that you are the source of all that's good, and these provisions are very good. Thank you also for these leaders who have accepted the heavy duties of their office. They're a remarkable group of people with a remarkable job to fulfill. What is done here impacts the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. This deliberative body regularly sends out ripples that have the potential to lift our citizens or to crush them. It's a heavy, frightful responsibility. And that's why we plead for your presence in this place tonight. We ask you to be very near each man and each woman who does the work of governance here. First those who deliberate and vote, then also those who help our leaders behind the scenes. You see what is done in secret. You read the human heart. In fact, you hold the hearts of those who rule in your hand. Bring forth from those secret places action that will lead to justice, goodness, peace, and prosperity. In other words, Father, we invite you to closely superintend all that is done here tonight, and that is my fervent prayer through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. Pastor? Excellent job, by the way. Thank you. And the certificates from all of us, recognition for helping us out tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Found $2. Legislator Tony Michike will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Michike. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've received your copies of the journals for Day 7, June 11th, 2013, and the special meeting on June 18th, 2013. Without exception, those journals stand approved as submitted. There's a hearing loop in place for tonight to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire at our clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic device in your possession, we would request that you make them inaudible for the duration of the meeting, and we thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, you have the referrals submitted for the next legislative cycle. They are all in your folders at this time. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Mark Quinn from our Parks Department, who will now introduce us to the plant of the month. Mr. Quinn.
Thank you. Good evening. Our plant of the month this month is a stilby. They're these beautiful plants right up front. They are a perennial, which means they'll die back in the winter and come back every year for you. This plant actually fills some real interesting niches that we have trouble finding plants for. One, it blooms in the middle of the summer right now in shady areas. It's very difficult to find good shade blooming plants, and this is one of the best. It'll bloom in a fairly heavy shade. It will do okay in the sun if it's in a wet area, but it doesn't really like full sun if it's dry at all. The other niche it fills particularly well is that wet soil niche. Typically, I come in here and I tell you this plant likes a drained soil. Most plants do. Astilbes, on the other hand, will do particularly well in a wet soil. It can be wet all the time, and they do well. So wet and shade. You see them a lot around pond edges. They're used in woodland borders a lot. They're very beautiful, very low maintenance. They come in reds, whites, purples, and pinks. It's not a particularly big group of plants. It's about 18 species in the genus Astilbe. They're native to Asia and North America. Again, they really do very well. They're very easy to grow. You don't have to do a lot with them. Unlike a lot of flowers where you want to cut the flower heads back, these you really don't. It won't produce more flowers by deadheading them or cutting the flowers back. And actually, they look pretty good even after they're done blooming. They kind of provide winter interest. So you actually tend to cut them back in the spring, or the flower head itself kind of looks interesting throughout the season, even after the bloom ends. They bloom for quite a long time. They bloom for almost 3 or 4 weeks, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on weather, when they start blooming. So they really do put on a nice show. They're fragrant. They attract butterflies. They're deer resistant. A really nice, hardy plant for wet areas and shady areas of the garden. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. This evening we have several proclamations scheduled. Madam Clerk.
Would Joseph Marin please come forward? Also, County Executive Maggie Brooks, President Jeffrey R. Adair, and Legislator Mike Rocco. Whereas Joseph Marin began his 45-year Wegmans Food Markets career as a part-time clerk in 1962 and has since served in various capacities, including full-time clerk, department manager, assistant store manager, manager of services, energy specialist, and resource recovery manager. And whereas under Joseph's supervision, Wegmans Food Markets was recognized by the state of New York and Pennsylvania for waste reduction excellence in 1996 and 1997. And whereas Joseph has represented Wegmans in the community by serving on the Recycling Advisory Committee as both a member for 20 years and as the chairman for the last 17 years. He also served on the Monroe County Peer Match Recycling Committee and Rochester Food Link as both a board member for 2 years and an executive board member for 12 years. And whereas Joseph is a valued member of the community and his hard work will positively impact our community for years to come. We thank Joseph for his service on the Monroe County Recycling Committee and the work he has done to make Monroe County a safe place to live. Now therefore we, Maggie Brooks, County Executive, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, Anthony Daniele, Legislator District 10, and Mike Rocco, Legislator District 2, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Joseph P. Marin on his retirement from the Monroe County Recycling Advisory Committee. Congratulations.
Well, probably the first thing, I'm almost lost for words. Anybody that knows me, occasionally I find something to talk about. But when I heard about this award, I was really overcome. And as you can see, I still am. I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank Wegmans for the opportunity to serve this RAC committee and all the great members I have been associated with on the RAC for a number of years. And also, I'd like to thank Jeff Adair and Maggie Brooks for their support and for the environmental department and all the folks that part of it and have helped us during the year. So again, I would thank you very much for this honor. I really appreciate it, what you've done for me. Thank you very much.
Would Betty Mullen DeProza please come forward? Also President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Dr. Joe Carbone. Hello. Whereas care for our aging citizens is of utmost importance in Monroe County, Betty Mullen DeProza has dedicated her career to this service in many capacities. She has worked locally as a chairwoman of the board for the Traditions in Caring Licensed Home Care Agency, as a board member for the Mercy Prayer Center, and as a trustee for St. John Fisher College. She holds a degree in nursing from Seattle University, a graduate degree from the University of Washington, and a degree in strategic perspectives in nonprofit management from Harvard University. And whereas, for the last 16 years, Betty has improved the lives of many elderly citizens in Monroe County as the president and CEO of St. Anne's Community. St. Anne's cares for over 3,000 elderly citizens each year and employs over 1,100 Monroe County residents. She works to ensure that patients in the long-term care, retirement living, and adult daycare programs receive the best possible treatment. And whereas, on May 22, 2013, Betty Mullen DeProza received the 2013 Lawrence E. Larson Memorial Award of Honor in Saratoga Springs, New York. This award is given for distinguished service, dedication, and foresight for those who work in aging services. Betty's career in this community has positively affected the aging population in Monroe County. She has made a difference and continues to make a difference each and every day. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Dr. Joe Carbone, Legislator District 16, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Betty Mullen DeProza on receiving the 2013 Lawrence E. Larson Memorial Award of Honor. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for this honor. I have to thank my favorite podiatrist, Dr. Joe Carbone, for this effort. I also want to thank all the members of the legislative group. It's been an honor to work at St. Anne's Community. We provide the best care that you can expect for older adults. Since the time I came there, the organization has changed dramatically. We serve people in a whole variety of ways, from long-term care to transitional care, to hospice care, adult day care, independent and senior housing, and assisted living and memory care. It's been an experience of a lifetime. I have the greatest staff, the greatest board of directors who are willing to risk and take on the kinds of programs and services that this community needs. I want to thank the community for supporting St. Anne's, and it is with great pleasure that I accept this recognition. Thank you.
Would Nicholas R. LaSalle please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and legislators Debbie Draw and Michael G. Barker. Whereas Nicholas LaSalle, a member of the 2009 Fairport graduating class, graduated from the United States Naval Academy on May 24, 2013, where he was awarded a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering. He graduated with a 4.0 GPA, putting him in a group of only 12 midshipmen in a graduating class of 1,046. He was the only aerospace engineering major to do so. Nick received his first choice Naval Service selection as a Navy pilot. And whereas during his time in the Naval Academy, Nicholas was named a Trident Scholar, enabling him to engage in an independent study of passive flow control on ship airwakes. Nick received the Max Short Academic Award, which is presented to the graduating senior with the highest aerospace engineering GPA who will pursue a career in naval or marine aviation. He was also named a Burke Scholar by the United States Naval Academy, which allows him to attend the Naval Postgraduate School after his first deployment. And whereas, in addition to his academic achievement, Nicholas was also a four-year member of the United States Naval Academy varsity offshore sailing team, in which he competed in the Newport to Bermuda offshore race, finishing first in his class and second in a division of 90 boats. He was also a member of the United States Naval Academy Alpine Ski Team, leading the team to a 10th place finish at Nationals as captain his senior year. Nicholas will begin flight school in Pensacola, Florida on August 9th, 2013. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, Debbie Draw, Legislator District 9, and Michael G. Barker, Vice President, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Nicholas R. LaSalle for his academic and athletic success in the United States Naval Academy and on a bright future in serving the United States of America. Congratulations.
I'm going to skip the mic if you don't mind. I don't really like using it. First off, thank you for the honor recognizing me here tonight. Second, thank you to my parents and family who are in the back corner. Without them, I don't think I would have gotten into the academy or done all the neat things I got to do and stand here today. And last, thank you, Mrs. Draw and Mr. Barker. Mrs. Draw is one of my childhood friends' parents. She used to drive me to ski practice at Bristol all the time. Mr. Barker was one of my middle school teachers, actually, so gave me the foundation to get into the academy and do as well as I did. So thank you for the honor. I appreciate it. And as always, go Navy, beat Army.
Legislators, you have in your folders the approved minutes from the last cycle. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now recess for the purpose of holding one public hearing. I declare open the public hearing for Resolution Intro 158 of 2013 entitled Adopting the 2014-2019 Capital Improvement Program.
There are no speakers registered for this hearing.
There being none, I declare this public hearing closed and reconvene the July 9th, 2013 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature. Yes.
I call for a 10-minute recess, please.
Yes, you may. You're okay, no objections? Okay. Everybody else okay with that? We're taking a 10-minute recess. Hit me. Put me on. I'm on. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Set. I'd like to call our recess, out of recess and back into legislative business. And at this time, we will now hold our public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature tonight. Madam Clerk.
Would the following three people please come forward to address the legislature with your remarks? You will have 2 minutes in which to provide your comments, and we kindly ask that you conclude when the timer sounds. Our first three speakers will be Edward Gartz, to be followed by Dean DeRusso and Carla Cates. Please come forward. And state your name once you're at the podium. Thank you.
Mr. Adair? How are you? Good, how are you? Nice to see you. See you too. My name's Edward Gartz. I've been up here before a few times speaking about the contract that the county has to manage the municipal golf courses. I've spoken in the past about the conditions of the courses and the fact that they're deteriorating significantly. For those of you who are new, since I was here last, I did turn in a little sheet of paper with a summary on it, but given 2 minutes and given that most of the people understand the concerns that are there that we have with the courses, I won't go through all these things. I came to ask tonight for, I actually came to ask you for something tonight. Do we have any golfers out there? There we go. Yeah. Anybody else? Any? Oh, and the lady in red. I'm sorry I don't know your name, but I couldn't help notice the bipartisan hug going on between you and Mr. Lightfoot over here. That was very nice to see. I want to recognize, Mr. Dare, John Lightfoot. I held a meeting and I sent an invitation to everyone that was here, except for those people that are new. And Mr. Lightfoot came, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about the conditions, and I greatly appreciate that, John, that you took your time. It was during a work day, so it was hard for people to get there. But I have in the audience many people that I know from Mr. Robach's office, some I know from LDR's, getting hot dogs and hamburgers with, some I know because we have Dr. Carbone here, who Dr. Carbone is the legislator for where I grew up and where my heart is and has always been, down in Arundequoit. I came to ask tonight that this organization request an audit. And the audit would be from the state comptroller, Edward Grant. I'm not sure what the process is now for finding out whether or not what I've asked for has been accepted. Perhaps I could find that out from somebody. But I would greatly appreciate your help. Mr. Grant is already waiting for your response, and he's ready to go. But there are conditions that need to be addressed. God bless you. Thank you so much for letting me speak again.
Our our next three speakers will be Sister Grace Miller, to be followed by Todd Spring and Rita Lewis. Please come forward. Please state your name.
I'm Carla Cates. I'm an investigator in the Special Investigations Unit at the Department of Human Services. I've been with the county for 18 years this past June, but I'm speaking solely for myself and not on behalf of my coworkers or my union. I stand before you as a success story. Although I had an intact family up until I was 17, I had to do a lot of my own parenting. I made some choices I regret now, but in the end, they were all opportunities to grow, and I've taken advantage of that knowledge and experience. I've taken my family up and out of poverty, domestic violence, drug abuse, and unemployment. I've been a single parent for 33 years. I've raised good children who are employed by the county or attending RIT on a full scholarship or as a devoted father to my granddaughter. I was a welfare recipient after I became pregnant with my second child and unable to collect child support from the absent father, and therefore applied for assistance. I did my own paternity suits and support petitions, and I happened to be at the county office building doing research for an income execution and saw the posting for examiner. I had the minimum qualifications but was turned down, and I contacted the person who sent me the rejection letter and was then invited to take the test, which I did pass, and became a county employee in June of 1995. I don't take no very easily, especially when I believe I'm right. Having this job has enabled me to give my children more opportunities than if I had remained unemployed or underemployed. We have decent health insurance for the time being. I have almost 30 days of vacation in my bank, and even though my health has changed since I became an investigator 4 years ago, I'm still as enthused about my employment as when I first came here in '95. This job also allowed me to become a first-time homeowner. Aside from raising my children, owning my own home has been the highlight of my life. I enjoy maintaining my home so that my neighbors' property values, not just my own, increase. I enjoy living in the city and don't have plans to leave it if I can help it. I don't have cable, I don't have credit cards, I have a 2009 card that's a newer vehicle than I've ever owned, and I have taxes, a mortgage, water, and RG&E bills just like all of us. I live very frugally. However, because of the economic times we're all living in, it's become painfully obvious that I need some kind of understanding as to why I, a person who has been charged with safeguarding the county's dollars, by administering the programs and regulations of federal, state, and local governments, Yep, have to deal with less and less buying power because of no raise in the last 5 years. I'm at the top grade of my position. I've consistently received excellent and above average reviews for 18 years. But I can't afford to gas up my car to do home visits because I must use my own vehicle. I've just really worked too hard to be unsuccessful. I want to be able to continue being successful. My success is my own.
Ma'am, please summarize.
I understand that we all have difficult decisions to make, and I didn't want to make this a whiny diatribe. Oh, wow. But it's a very personal thing for me to have achieved so much with so little. And I feel as though it's 2 steps forward and 3 back when it comes to my paycheck. So can you find a way, Mr. Bauer, for a fair contract for a fair day's pay? Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a woman who was supposed to be here tonight, and she didn't make it. She had serious back surgery, and tonight she's in terrible pain. She went to the hospital. She saw the doctor. She had medical insurance. She lost her medical insurance, then went to the welfare office on St. Paul Street to get Medicaid. When she was there, she wore a jumpsuit. She has a brace. The security guard forced her to remove her top. She was totally embarrassed, humiliated, and said, "This is what I have on. I have a back brace. She says, I can't take this off. He forced her to remove the top. Letter was sent to Maggie Brooks and to Kelly Reed, informing them as to what had happened. And to this date, she has not received any letter, any word from Maggie Brooks nor Kelly Reed. The woman was desperate. That's why she removed the top. She said if she didn't do it, she wouldn't have gotten her Medicaid, and she had to have it because she had no money. This is brute force at the hands of the welfare department at St. Paul. And not one word has been sent to the woman who would have been here tonight and needed to speak for herself, but couldn't make it. You forced people to stand in long lines at the welfare office at St. Paul Street, while Westfall Road is a ghost town. Complaints have been made, nothing happened. So people are continuing to be forced to stand in long lines at the welfare office at St. Paul. After hours forces homeless people to remain homeless because they were sanctioned by welfare. All this and more is brute force. And is this what this county wants? Is this how you want to treat the poor of Monroe County at the hands of Maggie Brooks and this Republican Party? And we come to you and tell you, and you never change one thing. Not one thing do change. Now, if you're going to allow a woman to remove her top because of a security guard that you have at the office, something is drastically wrong, and something needs to be done.
Please summarize.
I've already said what I want to say.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. As was stated, my name is Todd Spring, and I'm the former Executive Health Director of Monroe Community Hospital. Here tonight, and for the public record, I want to state unequivocally that I've never abused or mistreated any resident trusted to my care at any time over my 25-year career as a licensed nursing home administrator, the last 13 and a half of which were at MCH. More specifically, I vehemently deny now, as I have throughout this entire ordeal, that I or anyone under my direction did anything improper in dealing with an extremely unsafe situation involving a former resident at MCH. Fire in a multi-story nursing home full of frail people, the vast majority of whom cannot exit the building on their own, can never be treated lightly. In this particular instance, the involved individual resided on one of MCH's nursing units serving residents with significant breathing difficulties. Even a modest amount of smoke could have had devastating consequences to scores of residents. In addition to smoking practices contrary to MCH safety policy, the individual involved was concurrently abusing alcohol to the point of extreme intoxication. Taken alone, either of these two variables presents significant risk. When combined, the hazard was obvious and extreme. Members of the residents' care team were involved. Long before this issue became a media spectacle, the New York State Department of Health referred this matter to the New York State Attorney General's office for investigation. The Attorney General's office conducted extensive interviews and reviewed medical records and other relevant documentation. I am pleased, but not surprised, this evening to be able to state that the Attorney General's investigation into this matter has been closed without any allegation of my having committed any civil or criminal wrongdoing of any type. There were no plea deals, no side deals. The investigation was simply closed after a thorough review. This vindication is admittedly hollow victory, given that I've lost my career and been rendered unemployable in my profession due to the actions and inactions of others and from extensive and erroneous media coverage that I was not permitted to refute. One would have hoped that 13 plus years of stellar service to the residents and staff of MCH and to this community would have resulted in a bit more credibility and confidence from this body and others, but sadly that was not the case. I'm not here to blame anyone, although several of you should be ashamed of yourselves for playing politics with my otherwise unblemished career and profession. There's much more to be said on this matter, but for the time being, I'm satisfied coming down here this evening to set the record straight. Thank you for the opportunity.
I am here tonight to make a comparison between these two incidents, the one involving the woman who was told to remove her clothing, which made her feel humiliated. The request was totally unnecessary. And the continued response on the county's part to not bury the poor, but to force them to be cremated. Again, it is the abuse of power of individuals. In the first instance, it was namely the security guard who abused his power. And in the county's response with the burial policy, again, it is an abuse of power to refuse to do the right thing and provide the money to the poor for proper burials. Burials in cardboard boxes at Owatka's swampy cemetery designated for the poor is not a proper burial. We need to go back to the way it used to be, to provide a simple casket and a respectful service for the deceased poor, and simply give them a proper burial and not force the families to cremate their loved ones when it is very difficult for them to do that. So I really hope you reconsider your policy and make the necessary changes so that the burials can happen and that the poor are not left with an unbearable burden of trying to bury their loved ones. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Mrs. Morales. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say. I would like to speak on the issue of the burying of the dead also. If it were your child, what decision would you make? This shoe that I carry turned into the shoe or shoes you carry. We switch roles. My decision becomes your judgment. How would you really feel having little to nothing, but have this cross to bear? There are right ways to help us grow, respect being one, caring, compassion, dignity, and honor. You go the way you've chosen for us, and let us go the way you've decided you'd go. Some teachers prove us. Others build solid spiritual structures into our lives. Still others, as caring shepherds, are there with listening ear when we hurt. Choose you this day as you do. May the same be your judgment. I mean, people who have fought for our countries are buried in honor. People of war, disaster, mishaps are not stripped as you would strip us here in America, land of the free. Let freedom ring. I'm talking about faith in nothing. People who've done all that they could for us or we could do for them, giving them a choice of going home. Help where needed is needed. And when it's needed, it's a crisis. Most of our jobs are gone, our homes, our pay, our food stamps, taking care of our children, the elderly, our schools, money we no longer can get to save up for nursing homes costs, rehab costs, rent costs, jail costs. But nothing decent in the end comes our way. Come on now, America can do better. than that? Psalms 4:4, in your anger, do not sleep when you are on your bed. Search your hearts and be silent. Deal with your desires for the less fortunate without attacking them. Be able to see the concerns of the people. Apply its truth as you face your day of events. Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
We will now proceed with the considerations of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 13-193, local law.
Moved by Legislator Baroth and seconded by Legislator Tucciarello. This is to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Tucciarello.
I'd like to offer an amendment to this referral. I'd like to thank Legislator Baroth for offering this referral to us, and I've enjoyed working on the other side of the aisle discussing the importance of this topic, and I will wait for a second, and I will distribute the amendment, please.
I have a motion for the amendment. I have a motion by and a second by Legislator Baroth, and we're going to distribute this at this time. Yes. Oh, it isn't. You're right. I can hear them. Carrie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that I have my microphone turned on, I will repeat some of my comments that I would like to thank Legislator Baroth for offering us this referral. I've worked across the other side of the aisle. It's good legislation. Like I have said originally, I like good legislation no matter where it comes from. Legislator Baroth brought this to us, and I want to thank him for that. In front of us, we now have our amendment, which has many underlines and strickens. Mr. President, would you like me to read it in its entirety, or since we have it in paper form, let each legislator read it themselves? Carrie, how would you like it? Would you like me to read it?
Oh,
Read it ourselves?
Yeah.
I'll take a moment for that then.
That would
sir.
be great.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment before you tonight is the result of bipartisan effort of this body to strengthen our Monroe County Code of Ethics, something that we can all be proud of, and I know I am, and I believe that Legislator Baroth is very proud of this. I would ask for other discussions and voting.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Yes, I did. The floor is open. Legislator Lightfoot.
Mr. President, to the makers, in the first sentence it has an underline of verbiage, gift having more than a nominal value, and then stricken of $25 or more. So nominal value, what is that value amount? Do we know, or is it zero? I'm asking.
Lower in this amendment, it refers to the term gift shall be defined pursuant to New York State legislative law and amended from time to time. And in that legislative law, I believe the number is $15. So this way it has been stricken out as $25 and refers to the New York State law that we have formulated after.
Thank you. Legislator Lightfoot, you still have the floor. Anything else?
I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none on the, this is on the amendment, correct? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The amendment carries. Back to the main motion, which I already have I already have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the main motion at this time? Legislator Baroth.
Obviously, I rise in support of this local law, and I just want to say I am also very pleased with the work that we've done on both sides of the aisle, and it's been quite refreshing and invigorating. I did appreciate the courtesy shown, and frankly, it's been a good experience. I also want to point out that this local law is going to provide a great deal of clarity that has not been there. But I also want to really congratulate the writers of the amendment, because by referring to the state law, what this does, it makes the local law much more sustainable over time, because as the state law is modified due to unforeseen circumstances, this will also be modified as a result. So I thought that was a very good use of the state law in terms of the definition of gift. I very much appreciate that suggestion. And finally, I also want to point out that this does allow for, in fact, require the application of certain, the current ethics law for the county to our local development corporations with whom we do a lot of good business, and I think that's actually a very important step as well. And finally, I would view passage of this local law as a promising sign that we can do bipartisanship and good governance at the same time. I think that's something that we can and should do more often, at least as often as we possibly can. So thank you very much all who support this.
Thank you, Legislator Baroth. Is there any other discussion at this time? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Congratulations. Next item, please. I'm sorry. We'll now proceed with the considerations of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 2, referral 13-153, providing that resolution.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, Hannah, Valerio, Colby, Draw, and Boyce, and seconded by Legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to lift from the table. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 13-153, providing that resolution. Intro.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, seconded by Legislator Hannah, Valerio, Colby, Draw, and Boyce, and seconded by Legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Tucciarello.
Mr. President, I rise to make a motion to amend page 12 of the 2014-2019 Capital Improvement Program as described in the amendment that's currently being circulated.
I have a motion and a second, and it's being distributed to you now. Please take a moment to read it. Thank you. Seeing, I believe everybody's all set. Legislator Tucciarello, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to defer to Mr. Helfer so that he can explain why the amendment is needed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make a few comments and then I'll defer to the Director of Finance for maybe some additional information. But essentially what we're requesting or what we're recommending that the legislature adopt in this amendment is to reflect the fact that the $7 million, first of all, that is being added in this particular item in the CIP is not new money. Instead, it represents the remaining authorized amount from the former Monroe Community College project created for a downtown campus when it was envisioned to be part of Renaissance Square. That project was entitled the Advanced Technology Education Center, or ATEC. That account will be closed by the Department of Finance, and the remaining balance would be merged into the current downtown campus project. This would streamline the financing as well as the auditing procedures that would be followed for the funding of the downtown campus. And the Department of Finance has also informed us that the time remaining on the previous authorization will soon be expiring, which also necessitates the closing of the current authorization and require that we make this change in the CIP that would be in effect beginning next year and would be part of the bonding that would be before the legislature as part of the capital budget this December. And I would defer any additional comments maybe to Mr. Franklin if I've left anything out.
Mr. President, I would briefly add to Mr. Helfer's comments that in essence this request before you, this amendment, is somewhat analogous to what MCC is requesting at the state level, which is to seek state legislative approval to rename their state appropriation from 2006 entitled Renaissance Square to be renamed MCC Downtown Campus. That is not pretty much, well, that is completely analogous to this request. As Mr. Helfer commented, from an accounting perspective, it's a lot more appropriate and more cleaner to account for all the expenses of a given project in one capital fund rather than have them spread across multiple capital funds. Also, just to add to Mr. Helfer's comment, the prior ATEC funding is due to expire in May 2014. That's why the timing of this request is quite appropriate. Thank you. Mr. President, if I can also remind this honorable body, although we are increasing the dollar amounts in the 2014 column of the CIP, as Mr. Helfer indicated, the capital fund approved by this body back in 2003 and subsequently in 2004 will be closed. So the unexpended remaining authorization of $7 million from that fund will be merged into this one. So there is actually no change in the overall capital financing of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other questions at this time? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of questions on clarification. The 10-year deadline that you speak of that expires in May of next year, is this a provision of the state local finance law that capital funds can only be open 10 years or something of that nature?
Yes, Mr. President. That would be local finance law section 41.00.
Okay. Absent the problem with the 10-year limit, could the $7 million that is currently in the existing capital fund labeled Advanced Technology Education Center, could that be used for the new Damon campus? As I say, if we exclude the issue of the 10-year limit?
Mr. President, the former ATEC Capital Fund remaining balance could have been used on this project subject to certain limitations and timing. The timing and limitations of that former capital fund are such that we think it's much more appropriate to request this amendment today.
But aside from the timing issues, the money in the fund could be used for this project through the President.
Mr. President, the certain limitations that I described really are under New York State General Municipal Law, Section 99D. That capital fund was for planning, design, and estimates. If we were to use this prior authorization for this capital fund, it comes with limitations of timing. We would expect to wait at least 1 year before moving forward with any other aspects of the project.
And a final question, Mr. President. If we approve this evening and proceed, what prevents, is there anything that would prevent the county from using part of this $7 million that's currently in the capital fund for the project, and then in effect getting a new $7 million come December? In other words, maybe use $3 million of the $7 million that's in this capital fund and still be getting $7 million new. How do we know that the whole $7 million will be canceled?
Mr. President, that's a very fair question. I'd like to say to this body that the Department of Finance has already locked the former capital fund to any new expenses. What I mean by locked is no expenses can be charged against that capital fund anymore. We are waiting to hear back definitive word from SUNY on an outstanding reimbursement claim to that old fund. Once that definitive response from SUNY is received, which I would expect in the next 1 to 2 months, that fund will be closed by the Controller's Office. I believe it's a read-in file will be submitted from the County Controller to the Clerk of the Legislature that will detail the closing of that capital fund number 1257.
Okay. So, it's again through you, Mr. President. So, as I understand it, the existing capital fund, I think, to use your word, is now locked, and no additional expenditures can be made, or no new expenditures can be made from it?
Mr. President, that is correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Legislator Andrews.
Mr. President, just a couple of questions. I know it sounds like the approximate amount is $7 million, but could you tell me what the exact amount is that's currently in that ATEC fund, that capital fund 1257, please?
Mr. President, the original appropriation was $10,736,000. Expenses have been recorded of almost $10.9 million. Am I reading the right line? $3.256 million, leaving a unexpended variance of almost $7.5 million.
Thank you. Through the President, then you would move over the entire $7.5 million, or almost $7.5 million?
Mr. President, actually, no. We are requesting to move $7 million. That $7 million is rounded off because this has been advertised as a $72 million project. And this honorable body adopted a 2013 CIP and bonding resolution for $28 million. The proposed CIP has another $37 million, so 28 and 37 is 65. We need additional $7 million to get to what we've been saying all along, which is a $72 million project. So in essence, we will be leaving or abandoning almost $500,000 from the previous ATEC fund.
Thank you. And then through the President, what happens with that remaining, that abandoned amount?
Mr. President, nothing happens to that amount. It is forever gone.
Okay, thank you. I think you stated earlier that the current fund for ATEC had certain limitations on how it could be expended, and so if we didn't take this action, it could be used for planning, design, and estimates. Could you just elaborate? Would that still allow us then to use the funding for at least the planning, design portion of the downtown campus?
Mr. President, if we were to use that former fund for planning, design, and estimates, the other limitation would be in essence, a one-year waiting period. However, the irony is we've already acquired that property, so the situation gets a little muddled.
Through the President, you mean a one-year waiting period to use the funding for planning and design?
Mr. President, Section 99D of General Municipal Law is pretty specific that any planning and design work that is done, once it's completed, the county would have to wait 1 year before moving forward on any action of that planning and design.
Through the president then, so if the fund is moved over to MCC, then that requirement no longer exists, is that correct?
Mr. President, the Downtown Campus Capital Fund bonding resolutions are written broader. It is for planning, design, acquisition, and construction. And those would be the confinements going forward.
Thank you. And then the action tonight, it just requires a majority vote, is that correct?
Mr. President, amending the proposed CIP would be a simple majority vote.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none on the amendment, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call vote.
Mr. Tucciarello? Yes. Ms. Andrews? No. Mr. Ansello? Yes. Mr. Antelli? Yes. Mr. Barker? Yes. Mr. Baroth? Yes. Ms. Boyce? Yes. Dr. Carbone? Yes. Mr. Colby? Yes. Mr. Daniele is excused. Mrs. Draw? Yes. Mr. Gamble? Yes. Mr. Gamina? Mr. Haney? Yes. Mr. Hanna? Yes. Mr. Holland is excused. Ms. Cayley? Yes. Mr. John Lightfoot? Yes. Mr. Willie Lightfoot? Mr. McCann? Yes. Mr. Michike? Yes. Mr. Morelli? No. Mr. Patterson? No. Dr. Quattro? Yes. Mr. Rocco? Yes. Mrs. Valerio? Yes. Mr. Wilcox? No. Mr. Yolovich? Yes. President Adair?
Yes.
21-6, motion passes, or amendment passes.
Back to the main motion. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I did at the committee meetings, I'm going to vote against the CIP this evening. I don't necessarily encourage anybody else to follow my lead, but I do so for the sole purpose of raising the issue that I think is somewhat alarming, and that is the magnitude of the growth in the CIP over the last couple of years, and specifically in one area of the CIP. 2 years ago, we adopted a CIP that was for a total of $370 million. Last year, we adopted a CIP that was for a total of $407 million. Tonight, we're being asked to adopt a CIP that is $414 million. So that in 2 years, the size of the CIP has grown by some $44 million. Now, we all know that there are many projects in the CIP which one might call self-funding, the enterprise fund projects, etc., and a number of them are subject to federal and state reimbursement. But even in the much more narrow category of the value of the projects that the bottom line county property taxpayer is going to be subject to, we see a growth from the CIP adopted 2 years ago of $23,701,000 to $40,016,000. That's an increase of over $16 million and is an increase of 68%. All of this debt that we are anticipating issuing through the CIP is all going to have to be repaid. We are locked into a position of never increasing taxes. So my very real concern is what is going to happen 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years down the line when we have to begin repaying all of the, what I'll call the local portion debt. I think I'm very concerned, Mr. President, that we're digging ourselves a financial hole that we will regret in 4, 5, or 6 years. I'm also concerned by the fact that one segment of the CIP, namely the money for Monroe Community College, has increased tremendously. At the same time, in order to try and accomplish some of that tremendous increase in the money being set aside for MCC projects, we have reduced the amount of funding, particularly for the Parks Department and for our highway and bridge and traffic engineering projects. The cut in the latter actually being bigger than the former. I think we all know that the highway work is going to have to be done. We can postpone projects, but it's got to be done. Our parks are probably the most used thing that we give to county taxpayers. And as I say, I'm really concerned about the growth in the CIP allocated to Monroe Community College. This CIP contains $104,854,000 for MCC. The CIP adopted 2 years ago contained $45,700,000 for MCC. That's an increase of $59 million. Even if we back out the Damon Campus project, which clearly is a special and unique undertaking, even if we back that out of these numbers in this CIP, the growth in the level of spending for Monroe Community College is over $22 million, or some 48%. I certainly have nothing against MCC, and in the current economic environment and employment environment, the work that they do is not only important, it's vital. But there is, Mr. President, a baseline question of how much we can afford of a good thing. And I fear, Mr. President, that we have gone beyond the point of what it is that we can really afford. I won't offer any amendments to try to collect what I consider to be this problem, because I know they'd be defeated. But I shall vote against the CIP. As I say, I don't particularly urge anybody to follow my lead, and I do so really to lay on the table my sincere concerns about the growth in these numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, I'll move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Tucciarello?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews? Yes. Mr. Ansello? Yes. Mr. Antelli? Yes. Mr. Barker? Yes. Mr. Baroth? Yes. Ms. Boyce? Yes. Dr. Carbone? Mr. Colby? Mr. Daniele is excused. Mrs. Draw? Mr. Gamble? Mr. Gamina? Mr. Haney? Mr. Hanna? Mr. Holland is excused. Ms. Kaylee? Mr. John Lightfoot? Mr. Willie Lightfoot? Mr. McCann? Mr. Michike? Mr. Morelli? Mr. Patterson? Dr. Quattro? Mr. Rocco? Mrs. Valerio? Mr. Wilcox? Mr. Yolovich? President Adair?
Yes.
23-4. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 4, referral 13-188, confirming reappointment.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Barker. At this time, on this referral, I'd just like to point out there's a correction. The referral that you got said the expiration date was 2022. The resolution that you got tonight reflects the correct expiration date, which is 2020. I just wanted to point that out. There was an error in the referral. So, is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 5, referral 13-194, authorizing additions to 3.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, second by Legislator McCann. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item, please.
Item number 6, referral 13-194, providing that resolution.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, second by Legislator McCann. This is a motion to table. All in favor? Any opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 7, referral 13-194, fixing a public hearing.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, second by Legislator McCann. This is the motion to set the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 8, referral 13-195, confirming appointments.
Moved by Legislator Barker, second by Legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 9, referral 13-196.
Moved by Legislator Colby, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 10, referral 13-197, accepting grant.
Moved by Legislator Draw, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 11, referral 13-198, authorizing conveyance of.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 12, referral 13-199.
Moved by Legislator Draw, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 13, referral 13-200.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, second by Legislators Valerio and Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 14, referral 13-205, approval of.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 15, referral 13-205, providing that resolution, intro number.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to table. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 16, referral 13-205, fixing public hearing.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to set the public hearing. All those in favor? Opposed? The item carries.
Item number 17, referral 13-230, amending resolution.
Moved by legislator Barker, second by legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries.
I rise to make a motion to suspend the rules to call and vote for item 13-00067 BR.
Is there a second to that? I have a motion made by legislator Tucciarello, and I have a second by legislator Andrews.
There we go.
Would you like to discuss this?
It's the motion to suspend.
It's a motion to suspend the rules.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Motion
We have to
I'm a
vote.
little ahead of myself. Okay, we have suspended the rules for the purpose of introducing this piece of legislation back to you. Please take a moment to read it. We had to vote on the suspension? I'm sorry. All those in favor of suspending the rules, sorry about that, say aye. Thank you. Opposed? The item carries. Thank you, Cheryl. You're making me look good tonight. Now we have suspended the rules. We have this referral in front of us. And I am now going to entertain a motion to make a motion and a second for it.
I make a motion that we move 13-00067 BR.
Thank you. Moved by legislators Tucciarello, Colby, and seconded by legislator Yolovich.
Okay.
Is there any discussion at this time?
And so, second by Valerio.
Second by Valerio. Is there any discussion at this time? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. We are now back to regular session. I have lifted the suspension of the rules, and I believe at this time I am going to accept a matter of urgency from County Executive Brooks, from legislators Andrews and Tucciarello, that will now be distributed. This will be number 18 on your agenda.
Matt, we need some up here. And Jeff needs one.
Just one, that's all. Thank you. Will the clerk please introduce the item?
Certainly.
Thank you. Oh, well. Yeah, it's okay. Has everyone received it now? At this time, I would like the clerk to please introduce the item.
Certainly. Item number 18, referral 13-231, preventable infant mortality in Monroe County.
Moved by legislator Andrews, second by legislator Tucciarello. Is there any discussion on this item? Legislator Andrews, the floor is yours.
Mr. President, I mean this with all sincerity, that it's very nice to stand here today and introduce this piece of legislation. I want to thank the county executive and her team for working on it with me, and I'm excited and hopeful that it'll have everyone's full support this evening. As we have discussed several times, high infant mortality rates are a problem in our community. And that is especially so, and especially true in African American communities and Latino communities, where the death rate for infants is over 14 per 1,000 live births in the African American community, almost 12 per 1,000 live births in the Latino community, and yet a very low rate of 4.5 deaths among white women in our county. This disparity is unacceptable, and I'm pleased that we stand here tonight poised to do something more about it. Certainly we'll acknowledge the county has made strides in addressing infant deaths that occur due to unsafe sleeping practices, but most infant deaths occur for different reasons. And in order to reduce those deaths, we need to learn why they are occurring. And so I do believe the first step is what we're doing here tonight. It starts with an in-depth data analysis with the assistance and guidance of the Perinatal Network of Monroe County to work to determine the causes for infant deaths among infants under 1 month-year-old. This is very important work, and it's going to be an exciting undertaking that will help us address these troubling infant mortality rates and reduce the racial disparities that currently exist. With our limited resources, we obviously can't just throw money at problems and try to understand them. We need to do research, we need to use data to guide our work. And so that's why I think this is an especially important point and place to start. The Perinatal Network of Monroe County does great work, so does our Department of Public Health, and I'm certain that together they will dive into this research and this project and produce good results that we'll be able to then learn from to put together the next step after that. So I certainly ask my colleagues to support this measure, and I'm very pleased, as I said, to stand here tonight and introduce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Yes, Legislator Tucciarello.
I want to thank County Executive Maggie Brooks and Minority Leader Carrie Andrews. I'm very proud to work with them on this. It's a good referral, and I just want to thank them both. It's a great bipartisan thing that we're doing here today.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Legislator Valerio.
Sorry about that. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, has there been, to date, any information provided by hospitals to, to show that there is some training before a mother leaves the hospital regarding this problem?
Through the President, yes, our area hospitals, including Let Me Be Strong, Highland Unity and RGH, they have in place, or they will soon have in place, efforts that include, among other things, videos, that show families before they actually leave the hospital or soon after delivery, safe sleep practices, among some of the other efforts that are going on.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Yes, Legislator Tucciarello.
I rise to make a motion to suspend the rules to call for a vote on item 13-0066BR.
I have a motion by Legislator Tucciarello, second by Legislator Valerio. Is there a vote? I'm sorry. Let's go to a vote. All in favor of suspending the rules for this?
Aye.
Opposed? We have suspended the rules for this item. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move item 13-0066BR. Thank you.
Moved by Legislator Tucciarello, second by Legislator Jolovich. It is being distributed right now as we speak. Give legislators a chance to review it. How's that? Good, Pat? Solid. Thank you, Casey.
Casey.
Get Carrie. You all set? Okay. Alrighty. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. There being no unfinished business to come before this body tonight, Legislator Tucciarello. Sure, Legislator Haney. Go for it.
I'd like to make a quick inquiry as to whether the auction of the Edwards property and the terminal building has yet been held.
Through the President, it has not.
Has the minimum sales price yet been set? I can't think of the legal term, but
Through the President, the reserve price has not been decided upon
thank
yet.
you.
Thank you. Legislator Tucciarello.
I move this meeting adjourned. The next meeting of the Monroe County Legislature is scheduled for Tuesday, August 13th, 2013 at 6 p.m. Thank you, Mr. President.